Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. I'm Carrie Cohan, and right now I'm in the UK, Canadian living abroad. I wanted to bring something to your attention because, as many of you know, I am a psychic. I died a couple of times in my early 20s, or late 20s actually, and I I woke up with some insights again this morning, very similar to Edgar Casey, the sleeping prophet. I go to sleep, I wake up, and I am shown visions. So I had this vision, I went on the computer, and then I found this video. It will blow your mind away because this is exactly what's going on right now with Donald Trump, with President Trump, and the dictator out of Venezuela, Maduro, and everything that's happening. It's all the pieces are coming together, and I saw this way back when, December 18th, what was it? I think it was 2021, 2020 maybe. It was the heated debate that went on in the White House, and it all makes sense. So let's go back. Let's step back, and I'll play it out for you.
I got a call either from Molly or Richmond that I need to get to the Oval Office.
So that was the first point that I had recognized. Okay, there was nobody in there from the White House. Mark's gone. What's going on right now?
I opened the door and I walked in. I saw General Flynn. I saw Sidney Powell sitting there. I was not happy to see the people in the Oval Office.
Explain why.
Well, again, I don't think they were providing. Well, first of all, the overstock person, I've never knew who this guy was.
So who is this Overstock guy? Well, it is Patrick Byrne. Do you remember Patrick Byrne? He was a guy that was the president of Overstock, and he all of a sudden came on the scene, and he seemed really excited that he was in the White House and he was working with Sidney Powell. And there was an interview that he did. He was in a hotel room, and there was a curtain behind him. It was like a paisley kind of pattern, and he was saying, right, Sidney? Sidney's just, she's working so hard on her next application. She did like 60 applications across the country, and I believe she lost every single one. And and her response was, well, every judge was corrupt. And the guys that were very close to Trump, they were like, every single judge? And she was saying yes. So I think she was exposing a lot of stuff that was going on, and Patrick Byrne seemed to be involved in this. I don't know which way. Never really cared for him or trusted him, but who knows. So anyways, again, makes me choke up. Because there's something there. He, I believe, was faking that Sidney Powell was behind him in that interview. When he was like, right, Sidney? And you hear a woman going, yeah, I'm just getting stuff ready. I'm working right now. And, sorry I can't come in front of the camera, that kind of thing. And I remember at the time looking into that and going, that's not Sidney behind there. That's a woman that's just, faking that, she's Sidney Powell. So what happened to Sidney Powell? And then I looked in and realized, no, she's not with us anymore. I think that she exposed too much. She was getting the ear of the president, and I think something happened there. So we'll go to the meeting of December 18th, and so I remote view. I died a couple of times in my 20s. And I've come back with the ability to go through wormholes, remote view, do all kinds of really interesting things that we all can do, right? But anyways, I felt compelled. All of a sudden, boom, I was like, I have to go to the White House. I have to remote view. And I remember thinking, really, I've never looked into the White House before. So I took a couple of deep breaths, off I went, and I ended up in the White House. And I looked around. Sidney was there. She was sitting down. President was here. The Overstock guy was there. And, General Flynn was there. Mike Pompeo, I believe. And there was some guards that were human, but human-looking, we'll say. Anyways, there was a tall one, bald. And he looked at me. I looked at him, and I thought, damn. He can see me. And he goes, "Sir, sir." And it was heated. It was very argumentative in there. And there were a couple of other guys that were like career politicians. I didn't know who they were. Anyways, it was getting pretty heated. And this bodyguard had to go, "Sir, sir, there is someone in the room with us," energetically, right? He didn't say that, but he said, "Sir, there is someone here that is not supposed to be. So please just give me a moment." And I looked at him and he's looking at me and I went, "Shit," he could see me. Okay, so I bungee corded backwards and left the room. But that meeting has always stuck with me because I thought, what happened there? Sidney Powell. A lot has been said about her, that there was corruption and stuff like that. When I look into Sidney, I think that she was one of the few that was saying it's all corrupt and the president has got to fire all of these guys and start over. And by saying that, I think that was signing her own demise, because she hasn't been with us for a very, very, very long time. I'm sure they have a look-alike that has posed a couple of times, but think about it. She was, counsel for the White House, and she hasn't been with us for a very, very long time. So, anyways, I find this video, and how interesting is this? Let's take a look.
Good evening, everyone. From New York, I'm Ayman Mohyeddin in for Chris Hayes. We have new developments tonight in the investigation into the insurrection on January the 6th, as this portion of the House Committee's investigation nears a close. And we are expecting at least one more public hearing in the fall, sometime before the midterm elections, when the committee issues its final report on Donald Trump's efforts to incite an insurrection at the Capitol. And today, committee members conducted yet another key interview with former Overstock CEO Patrick Byrne. Now, you may remember him from White House counsel Pat Cipollone's testimony that we heard at the last hearing. In fact, Cipollone told the committee about finding Byrne, along with big lie promoters like Sidney Powell and Mike Flynn, having an unscheduled meeting in the Oval Office, alone, with Donald Trump.
I opened the door and I walked in. I saw General Flynn. I saw Sidney Powell sitting there. I was not happy to see the people in the Oval Office.
Explain why.
Well, again, I don't think they were providing. Well, first of all, the Overstock person, I've never knew who this guy was. Actually, the first thing I did, I walked in, I looked at him, and I said, "Who are you?" And he told me. I don't think any of these people were providing the president with good advice. And so I didn't understand how they had gotten in.
That is a great question. Who is the Overstock person, Patrick Byrne? He is a successful businessman who launched Overstock.com back in 1999, and he led the internet retailing company for almost 2 decades. And during that time, Byrne became known for supporting elaborate conspiracy theories. In 2019, he resigned as CEO after disclosing his 3-year affair with none other than Russian spy Maria Butina. Now, with all that newfound free time, Byrne started promoting more conspiracies. And after the pandemic began, as you can imagine, he toured the country spreading lies about COVID vaccines. And then came the election. And following it, in 2020, he began pushing Donald Trump's big lie about election fraud. He financed a movie and wrote a self-published book about the bogus claims. And the former CEO of Overstock peddled those conspiracy theories on right-wing TV. This is what he was up to the day before that now infamous unhinged Oval Office meeting on December 18th.
So let's talk about Patrick Byrne. He actually came in to the scene out of nowhere, it felt like. He was involved with the FBI, I believe, or maybe one of the 3-letter agencies, and he bribed Hillary Clinton.
Why they did not, I know what's in the Durham report, and I'm going to say it here. I bribed Hillary Clinton $18 million. I facilitated a bribe for Hillary Clinton on January 14th, 2016, right here in this town. On behalf of the FBI, I They came to me around December 1st, 2015. They told me Hillary Clinton had accepted a bribe from Turkey for $20 million. They told me that I would be working for a group in New York, FBI agents, who had authorization to set Hillary Clinton up in a sting. They asked me to facilitate a bribe for her, an $18 million bribe from another government. The bag man from that other government was, I was to befriend, and I was to get that person 10 minutes alone in a room with Hillary Clinton. I did. On January 14th, 2016, Hillary Clinton was in this town, and she met in a way that was kept off her schedule. She accepted an $18 million bribe. General Barr knows this. This is the Durham. They know this was what is behind it all. I've been waiting to say this on mainstream TV, and they will not have me back because once they understood what this was about. I had Hillary Clinton. I caused Hillary Clinton. I facilitated a bribe, and she took a second bribe for $18 million. And I worked with the FBI as I did that. They're deeply involved in this. They came to me 3 days later and told me I had to forget about it and forget that it ever happened. And I said, what are you talking about? And they gave me one excuse. They said, Hillary's going to win, and it's been determined, it's been decided upstairs, nothing's going to be able to stop that now. So she's going to win, and she's going to send her people over to the FBI and ask who was part of investigating Hillary, and any of us who were part of it are going to be destroyed, and that includes you too, Patrick. And so this mission has been scrubbed from the highest level. And I thought about that, and I said, yes, sir, and I came, but 2 or 3 weeks later, I was back with 3 federal agents this time. 3 federal agents, and I let them know that wasn't sitting, and this is in Salt Lake City, Utah, and that wasn't sitting well with me, and I'd like to know why. We had almost a year before the election. They could have had me and another person in front of a grand jury in a week and gotten her indicted. And they told me, and this is the key to understanding what's happened in America. They told me, this is word for word, Patrick, what's really going on is this. President Obama has his people across the federal bureaucracy at this point, but especially the Department of Justice. Hillary Clinton is going to be president for 8 years, and nothing's going to change that. But think of there being a Bunsen burner within the Department of Justice. That evidence about the 2 bribes you were part of gathering is going to be sitting on the Bunsen burner. And the hand on the Bunsen burner is going to be one of Barack Obama's people. If Hillary's a good girl and defends Obamacare, that flame stays low. If she's a bad girl and thinks for herself, it's going to get turned up high. That way, Barack Obama is going to manage Hillary Clinton for the 8 years she's president, and then she's going to step down, and Michelle's going to run. And Patrick, that's the plan.
So you can see how all of this ties in together, right? How this goes back to 2016 and Obama, Hillary, Sidney Powell, Patrick Byrne, and of course all the corrupt politicians, the stealing of the election. All of this is about to come out with the testimony of the Venezuela dictator. He is now in custody. He is about to go into trial, and I believe that what we are going to hear is the exposing of how the election was stolen and how, heads should roll.
It was confirmed to me this spring, the Durham investigation has that plan was called the Operation Snow Globe. That was Brennan Obama's name for it. Snow Globe, they were trying to get Hillary to step into a snow globe. I'm looking for a prop. A snow globe that anytime they wanted, they could then pick up and shake for 8 years. My bribe was the bait to get her to step into the snow globe. That's all from it. This isn't a theory. I'm the guy in the room. I'm acknowledging I took part in all this, and I thought I was helping them conduct federal law enforcement. It turned out that I was helping them set up Hillary Clinton for a deep state to control her. And that's why, and I came in public a year ago with some pictures that showed me with this Russian redhead, Maria Butina, lovely woman, that said, and so I'm saying this entire thing, this last 5 years, has been a coup. It was from Obama against Hillary, that when Trump won in a fluke, it got morphed into the Russian collusion delusion. And I say that as the guy they had romancing Maria and bribing Hillary Clinton. So I'm about as involved in this as you can get, and I promise you that's exactly what happened. And what we're seeing here is the last act play out. I was the last act play out. And the reason I mentioned that I knew in October 2018 that this was going to happen was because in 2018 I was offered, a federal agent came to tell me, Patrick, you need to understand there are billionaires walking around this world that we made, and we're prepared to do the same for you. You just have to stay calm. You just have to stay quiet through the election. And by that election, I knew he meant 2020 election. So I've known that they were going to have this election since October of 2018.
And so that was the end of the elections. They had her. And it was also the end of Obama's plan. So I found these videos. Let's take a look.
For about a decade, our national security folks have been wondering, why are the Chinese referring to a coming assassin's mace, a one-stroke way of taking out the United States? And the truth is there are fingerprints on this going certainly Venezuela and Cuba, but also the trail goes back to Iran, Pakistani intelligence, and China. Their assassin's mace turns out not to be a missile. It turns out to be destroy our election system to take us down.
What? That doesn't even make sense. I mean, that is the kind of conspiracy mongering that punches your ticket onto Team Coup.
So how does this tie into what's happening today? I believe that the dictator out of Venezuela has agreed to come and testify and give the goods on how they stole the election in 2020, because this is the evidence that President Trump needs.
In the short period of time that you had with the president, did he seem receptive to the presentation that you were making?
He was very interested in hearing particularly about the CISA finding and the terms of 13848 that apparently nobody else had bothered to inform him of.
I was asking, like, you claiming the Democrats were working with Hugo Chavez, Venezuelans, and whomever else. And at one point, General Flynn took out a diagram that supposedly showed IP addresses all over the world, and who was communicating with whom via the machines, and some comment about like Nest thermostats being hooked up to the internet.
So it's been reported that during this meeting, Ms. Powell talked about Dominion voting machines and made various election fraud claims that involve foreign countries such as Venezuela, Iran, and China. Is that accurate? Was the meeting tense?
Oh, yeah. It was not a casual meeting. I mean, at times there were people shouting at each other, hurling insults at each other. It wasn't just sort of people sitting around on the couch like chit-chatting.
Do you recall whether he raised to Ms. Powell the fact that she and the campaign had lost all of the 60 cases that they had brought in litigation?
Yes, he raised that.
And what was the response?
I don't remember.
Cipollone and Hirschman and whoever the other guy was showed nothing but contempt and disdain of the president.
Yeah, I remember the three of them were really sort of forcefully attacking me verbally. Derek, and we were pushing back, and we were asking one simple question as a general matter. Where is the evidence? So,
what response did you get when you asked Ms. Powell and her colleagues, where's the evidence?
A variety of responses based on my current recollection, including, can't believe you would say something like, things like this, like, what do you mean, where's the evidence? You should know, and things like that, or, a disregard, I would say, a general disregard for the importance of actually backing up.
I mean, if it had been me sitting in his chair, I would have fired all of them that night and had them escorted out of the building.
But Derek and I both challenged what she was saying. And she says, well, the judges are corrupt. And I was like, everyone? Every single case that you've done in the country you guys lost, every one of them is corrupt? Even the ones we appointed? And I'm being nice. I was much more harsh to her.
So one of the other things that's been reported that was said during this meeting was that President Trump told White House lawyers, Mr. Hirschman and Mr. Cipollone, that they weren't offering him any solutions, but Ms. Powell and others were. So why not try what Ms. Powell and others were proposing? Do you remember anything along those lines being said by President Trump?
I do. That sounds right.
I think that it got to the point where the screaming was completely out there. I mean, you got people walk in, it was late at night, it had been a long day, and what they were proposing, I thought was nuts.
At the end of the day, we landed where we started the meeting, at least from a structural standpoint, which was Sidney Powell was fighting, Mike Flynn was fighting. They were looking for avenues that would result in President Trump remaining President Trump for a second term.
He needs to be able to show that absolutely the election was rigged. And how was it rigged? Well, with the Dominion voting machines, of course. I don't know if you remember, but Justin Trudeau, the dictator, Maduro, out of Venezuela, and also France, the three countries were in cahoots with one another, and they were devising, creating the Dominion voting machine and the software that went with it. So what happened? Elections in Canada, elections in France, and elections in Venezuela were all rigged. They were all stolen. But they also worked on the US election, and they stole that one as well in 2020. I think in 2016 it was supposed to happen. Hillary really thought that she had it in the bag, but it turned out that there were too many votes. And they had rigged it, but they didn't rig it enough. And then fast forward to 2020, they did steal it. But then 2024, they tried again, and again, it was too big to rig, right? Couldn't do it. There were too many votes for Donald Trump, President Trump. So if they had tried to rig it, it would have been so obvious because, well, as it was, there were more voters, more votes than there were voters registered in a lot of counties, a lot of cities. So, it was obvious that it was done again. But anyways, I think that the dictator out of Venezuela, he made a deal to protect him and his wife, I say. They all seem to have male partners that are transgender. You look at France, you look at Canada, Carney and his wife, and you look at Venezuela. Oh my gosh, there's so many countries. They all seem to have partners. Look at the Adam's apples in the partners' throats, as it bounces up and down. It's like Maddow's, CNN, Rachel Maddow. Look at her Adam's apple. Look at, what's her name? CNN as well. Kirsten. Anyways, doesn't matter. Another man. You always look at the shoulders. If you can put 3 heads across the shoulders, it's a man. If you can put a half a head and a half a head across the shoulders, it's a woman. It's a really easy way, besides the Adam's apple that bumps up and down. As a woman, you can see that you have the two, the larynx, right? But a man, he has the thing that bumps up and down in the center. Take a look at Maduro's, I keep pronouncing his name wrong. Look at the dictator's wife. And I say that in air quotes because, yeah, it's my belief. Is she a man? Yes or no? Absolutely. Yeah, she is a he. So why does this matter? It's because it's a trend and it is an agenda worldwide through the community, we'll say, right? So anyways, this is really interesting information because it's all coming to an end. I think with the dictator's testimony, this will start to unravel what actually happened January 6th with all of those people, with the stealing of the election, and the hearings that went on. But specifically, that meeting of December 18th that I got to witness by remote viewing. I also think that it's really interesting. Key players in all of this, I've either dated or had a history with, and it's getting to be almost embarrassing. But let's talk about this. Okay, so way back when, I've been talking about this for a long time on my YouTube channel. In early 1990s, I dated Jean Chrétien's son. He was the Prime Minister of Canada, And this was before he became prime minister. His son, Hubert Chrétien, not the adopted one, Michael, who was a pedophile, convicted, but Hubert, he was a nice guy, actually. And so he shared with me that all elections are rigged. And he also shared how his father was becoming prime minister because of the marriage that was agreed to with his sister and the Desmarais family. So once that deal was made, it was also agreed that Jean Chrétien would be the next prime minister. I was asking, why is it that CSIS, which is like the CIA Canadian version, why are they following us, talking into their wrists, and why are they following us all over Vancouver? And he said, because my father's going to be the next PM. And I was like, don't we need an election? That's when he shared with me the goods. So I'm really excited that how many years later, here we are. We actually are understanding, that all elections are rigged. And this is how they were planning to take down the United States, was through control of the election and implementing Muslim people, and my dear friends are Muslim. I work with the Green Sheikh out of Dubai. I really have great respect for a lot of the Muslim community, but I think there are some that are corrupt, as in all communities, right? So the corrupt ones were being inserted, we'll say, into politicians' political roles, including Obama, right? Probably one of the biggest roles there. And the plan was to take down the United States through Obama. That's what I believe. And it's been proven over and over and over again. This is what Patrick Byrne speaks about a lot. And I think he's got the proof. And I also think that we need to talk about Canada and Canada's role in all of this, because we do know that the Dominion voting machine was actually made in Canada. And Trudeau made a huge profit, like probably in the billions of dollars. I would love to be able to go in and look. Do we have a Doge? Canada needs a Doge, so we can actually go in and look at what Trudeau's corruption created, along with Mark Carney as well. So, anyways, we were the founders of the Dominion voting machine and the software. And the Canadians worked in conjunction with Venezuela and France. Those were the three. Like I said, I've been around a lot of the game players, and it's interesting over the years, right? So Daniel Smith, I ran for the Wild Rose Party. And after my advocacy work, I had every party asking me to run for them, both provincially and federally. And Wild Rose was no different. And I thought, yeah, okay, I'll go with Wild Rose. Daniel Smith was brand new. She was brand new leader of the Wild Rose Party. It was a really exciting time. And so I got to meet with her many times, and her parents, really lovely people. They were politically influential back in the day as well. And so when I won the Woman in Distinction Award, for instance, she was there, and with pictures. And then a little later after that, I ended up dating Dennis Modry, Dr. Dennis Modry. He's a cardiovascular surgeon, he's retired now. But he ended up being the catalyst. He and Jeff, the lawyer Jeff, they were the ones that started the separation movement in Alberta. So it's funny how your timeline, all these people are within your timeline, and you have a history with them, but they're now all coming to be key players. So Dennis as well, good man. But both Dennis and Danielle Smith and Trudeau, and Carney, they all went down and had meetings with Donald Trump. Well, what happened after those meetings, right? When Trudeau came back, he prorogued government. He shut it down. What did that do? It put every Canadian in a position of hardship. And it was really the start of the bankruptcy of Canada. Then Carney comes in, it's no better. My gosh. In his business, his private business is making billions while he's starting out, especially Western Canada. I think Carney, when he came back from the meeting, supposed elbows up, which was more on his knees with Donald Trump, he came back and he did everything in his power to alienate Western Canada. He has done everything to piss Western Canadians off. Why? Because He is pushing us towards separation. Why? Because then it's easy pickings, right? Once BC, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba break away from Canada, then it's fragmented and it's easy to pick up by Donald Trump, who is an ultimate chess player, business person. So this is my belief system, is that all of this ties in. What's happening right now with the dictator, I always pronounce his name right, right, wrong, Maduro or whatever, the dictator, we'll call him. He is a key part right now because through his testimony, he is going to show and prove how the Dominion voting machine and the software were used to steal the election. That then nullifies the entire presidency of Joe Biden. So everything that was signed, completely gone. He did not have a presidency, meaning then that Barack Obama didn't have his presidency through Joe Biden with the earpiece in Joe Biden's ear. Okay, so that is it. This is a really exciting time to be alive. All the truth is coming out. I'm really happy to be alive. I've been poisoned, 3 times now? 3 times. I have had death threats. I have had direct energy weapons used. I've had all kinds of stuff. And still, I am here telling the truth. I had over 1 million people on my YouTube channel and over 300,000 hours watch time. They took my channel away for about 9 months, and when Trump got back into power, all of a sudden, all those big wigs from social media went and had a meeting with Trump, and lo and behold, I was offered my channel back. Only they gave me 12,000, 11,000 viewers at that time. I'm still being shadow banned. I can watch as people are liking, but it will be like 5 likes, 5 likes, 5 likes. They don't add it on. So I'm still being shadow banned. But, if you could subscribe, this would be huge. This would be a really big help for me to be able to grow and get the message out there. So please subscribe and also share this on your social media. Share it on Instagram and X and every avenue you have, because I'll tell you why. I'm being shadow banned and I need your help. Mainstream media will never share what I shared with you today. We need to get this out there. Okay? So I appreciate everyone's help, and we'll see you real soon. Bye now.